Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm gonna welcome to the September 5th, 23 Planning Commission meeting. Hope everybody had a nice Labor Day weekend. Could we please have a roll call?
Chair Garcia,
Here.
Vice Chair Zavala,
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz, Commissioner Gallardo, Commissioner Vasquez.
We have a full commission. If we could all rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice Chair Zavala, please. Thank you, everyone. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If people are joining this meeting on Facebook Live, you won't be able to have your comments heard. If you want your comments heard, please log into the Zoom meeting. The ID is 876-8074-3187, and there is no passcode. So you can comment by raising your hand, and our wonderful planning staff will assist you there. So we can move on now to item D, public comments from the audience regarding items not on the agenda. Podium is open for public comment. Any hands raised?
No hands raised.
Okay, we'll close public comments. Move on to the consent agenda. We have one item, which is the adoption of the August 1, 2023 Planning Commission minutes.
I make a motion to approve the August 1st, 2023 Planning Commission minutes.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion in 3 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now we can move on to the public hearing portion of the agenda. We have 6 items under public hearings. The first item is the consideration of a resolution approving a design review for a new 4,496 square foot 2-story house, a 1,200 square foot detached accessory dwelling unit, also known as an ADU, and a 953 square foot detached garage on an existing 15,893 square foot lot located at 249 11th Street with an assessor's parcel number of 024131015. May we have a staff report, please?
Hi.
Hi.
This item.
Perfect.
The first item today.
Thank you. The first item today will be a design review for a single family residence at 249 11th Street. So this is a new 2-story single family residence on a currently underdeveloped 15,893 square foot lot. The only structures currently, there are a few sheds in the back of the lot, which will be removed prior to building. The residence is 4,496 square feet with a peak height of 28 feet, since it is a 2-story home with 6 bedrooms and 4 baths and it also includes an accessory dwelling unit. An ADU, it's the maximum allowed size of 1,200 square feet. There's 3 bedrooms and 2 baths in the ADU. And right next to that, we have a 953 square foot detached garage. It's a 4-car garage. The project will also include extensive landscaping improvements. The proposal meets all zoning requirements, except it's important to note that the ADU is currently above the allowed size, but we added a condition of approval to ensure that it's 16 feet or less. The project is located at 249 11th Street. This area is zoned for low density residential. So meets the criteria since it's a single family home. The applicant is Mr. Jose Milano and our designer is Mr. Juvencio Flores. So the site plan, it might be a little hard to see. It might be easier to see on the complete agenda where you have the whole plan set. But the residence, as you can see, is oriented to 11th Street. And if you start from the front, you see you have a long driveway that extends to the 4-car garage and to the ADU, and an additional parking spot right to the rear of the residence. So it meets all the parking requirements. The setbacks meet all the requirements as well as the coverage. It's under the maximum 40% allowed. Currently, there's an existing 6-foot high wood fence that's going to remain along the southwest and north property lines, as well as a 1-foot wall on the 11th Street frontage. Landscaping exceeds other requirements, so it's 51% total coverage. There's trees, shrubs, and plants all around the property. So we move forward to the floor plans. A little hard to see. I know it's tiny on here. But from the front, you enter onto a living room. The first floor, you have the master bedroom with the attached master bathroom. You have a gathering room, a kitchen nook, a dining room. Then you head upstairs and you have the remaining five bedrooms and the additional bathrooms. So yeah, like I said, this will be much easier to see on the plans that you have. It's tiny on here. So once again, you have a better look here actually. This is the ADU. So this is to the rear of the property. You have the entry onto the 1 bedroom, the 1 master bedroom with a master bathroom, bedroom 2, bedroom 3, a living room, a kitchen, a dining room. So this is the ADU to the rear of the property. And then here is the detached garage. It's a 4-car garage. Here we have the elevation showing us the exterior finish of the house, all the proposed windows, lighting, roof. It has solar panels, which is required for newer properties. The elevations of the detached ADU show that it also has solar panels, which is another requirement if the primary residence has it. And as you can see, the exterior matches the primary residence. It has all the proposed lighting, windows, doors. And then finally, we see the detached garage elevations, which also matches the exterior finish of the primary residence and the ADU. And finally, we can see the landscaping plan. So like I said, it has total coverage of 51%. You could see it's on pretty much everywhere, front, sides, back of the property, lining the driveway. There's trees that are existing that will remain. And if you look at the planting schedule, you can actually see exactly which plants, shrubs will be going on there, trees. So it meets the landscaping requirements, actually exceeds them. So here's a closer look at that. And here's a site photo to sort of put into perspective where this property is. Some of you might be familiar with this location. Currently, the lot is, you can see, underutilized. There's nothing there except for the sheds in the back that, like I said, will be removed. The fence will remain, and that front gate fence, you can call it, will remain as well. So something that is important to consider is that this project is clearly larger in scale than other homes in the neighborhood. The average home around that area is about 2,000 square feet. And like mentioned, this property is 4,496 square feet. not including the ADU and garage. So that's something to take into consideration when making your decision, is that it is bigger. I will note that there are other two-story homes in the neighborhood. There's one actually, you can see here right next to it, and another one just across from it, adjacent to it. And then if you go to the neighboring streets, you'll see a few more, but it is primarily single-story homes. So these are things to consider. It is exempt from SEQA review since it doesn't pose any unusual features that would result in significant environmental impact. And finally, staff recommends that Planning Commission adopt resolution number 2023-14, approving the design review for this two-story home. It's detached accessory dwelling unit and the detached four-car garage, subject to the conditions of approval, as you'll see attached. I believe it's the next attachment. And then if you have any questions for me, great.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Meza, for the staff report. Are there any initial questions for Ms. Meza before we open public? No? Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we'll open the public hearing. Are there any public comments on this item? Please.
Or more, three point four. I would half of the lot from this problem.
Could we turn that money first? If it's on?
Sounds like a fun. Or more, 3.4 might be about half of the lot from this project.
I have a number of concerns about this project. First of all, 11th Street is a racetrack, which doesn't really concern the project, but it does concern the neighborhood. There's a stop sign at Palm and 11th, which might as well be not be there. Nobody stops at it. This project also concerns me as to whether or not there's sufficient fire flow to the three hydrants that are in the neighborhood. There's one right in front of, or right actually on the property or in front of the property. There's one at the corner of Apple and 11th, and there's one at the corner of Palm and 10th. I am also concerned about the sewer system, that there's adequate capacity to take on 6 new bathrooms, 2 kitchens, and various other plumbing attachments. And also the water flow, that there's adequate water so that the rest of us don't suffer consequences from the increased use. As far as the street parking goes, on any given evening, there are anywhere from 25 to 45 cars parked in the 2-block area from Oak to Palm on both sides of the street. Every driveway has at least 2 cars in it, and several of them have more than 2 cars in them. The other houses in the area, yes, I would say the average size is way less than 2,000 square feet. They range in size probably from 600 square feet to a maximum of about 2,000 square feet. There's 3 other 2-story houses in the neighborhood, one right next door, one on Larson Lane behind that project, and one on Palm about, I think it's the second house down. None of them are as high as this house is going to be. And The one thing I would like to see if you approve this project is that all the landscaping is in place and growing before the building department issues an occupation and final inspection. It's well known that single family dwellings often come with a landscaping plan, but nobody ever sees that it gets completed. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other public comments from chambers? Are there any hands raised? Okay, with that, I'm gonna close the public hearing. And move on to planning commission discussion and decision. Mr. Vasquez, I can start with you. Do you have any comments or items?
¿Cómo se? Lo que sé que después no vemos. How to that's especially that's another bit in the situation. When something with other people and then work sometimes I have real quick cuts. We won't about pitching right.
I'm sorry, I forgot to ask, is the applicant here? So,
I don't believe he's here.
no.
Now, I share a couple of your concerns, Mr. Morris. The sewage situation here within our community. It doesn't only apply to that particular house. I think that should apply to all construction that's going on. If I remember correctly, someone said recently that we're already at 100% max at a sewage treatment plant, but our community continues to grow. I do not have anything personally against more houses coming up. But I've mentioned this previously on numerous occasions that we're starting to outgrow our infrastructure. And that's gonna happen, and it's already happening. You're concerned about parking. Well, parking throughout the community is a premium, not just on 11th Street. You should see down where I live. I mean, I've actually talked to people about leaving a parking space in front of my house I could park from. I know that's an issue, and Commissioner Ortiz has had for the longest time about parking. As far as the size of the house, I don't think it's even relevant. I mean, yeah, I mean, if they can afford a big house, more power to them. But I'm sure you're aware that before a structure like that goes up, they have to go around and talk to their neighbors within, I forget how many feet, 500 feet, to notify them that they're going to have a two-story building going up. And if there's any objection to that, those individuals, those residents can come on and address the problem here. Yeah, I don't think that should be held against them for being able to afford a big house. That's the only comments I have right now.
Thank you. Commissioner Ortiz?
I understand here is not the work that this one family living there. You want to put the back, you want to back there. And especially if they have parties and stuff, that there's just no parking on the other street whatsoever, just like it took down to this town. So that's my concern. Also my concern is that's a huge house to be built right there. And then that's the city of town, that area. That's my concern. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Vice Chair Zavala?
Yeah, I have a question. So where is the entrance to the ADU, the back? How would they get back there?
So the access to the back of this is kind of hard to see. Access to the back of the property is through this long driveway you can see on the side there. So you have the garage and then you just walk in. It's paved so they can just continue on to the ADU. But the car access is through this driveway right here. And then they'll have plenty of access to the ADU right through here. So you can see the little walkway.
So there's no fencing.
No, there's no fencing separating the ADU from the primary residence, no.
And then, do you have a picture of the lot?
Yeah. So it's currently what it looks like.
Okay, so the fire hydrant is gonna stay there, so that's gonna take up some parking space out in the street. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if we have a parking or car issue all over Greenfield, and unfortunately, that's always going to be a concern of us. But yeah, that's just my only concern for parking. Other than that,
Okay, thank you for that. Thanks.
So for the primary residence, it requires two covered and two uncovered parking spaces. So that covers the 4. And due to the size of the home, the fact that there's 5 or more bedrooms, that's why there's that other parking spot to the rear of the property. But as for the ADU, local and state legislation says that because they're within half a mile of a transit stop, that they are exempt from parking requirements. But they do have the 5 spots to share amongst.
Okay, do you know what the square footage is for the first floor? I'm sure it's in these drawings, but.
Yeah,
again,
sorry, it's just hard to
there's
see on
time.
here. Yeah. I think I might have cut off the part that has those exact. You might have it on your end. I apologize, I can't see this one too well from here.
But do you think it's safe to say it's 2,000 square foot on the first floor and the second floor?
I think it would be around
Roughly.
1,000 square feet, roughly, yes. Maybe slightly bigger.
And as far as the long driveway, do we know how many cars that would fit in addition to the 4-car garage?
I believe I don't have an exact number for you, but I believe it's 12 feet wide and 40 feet long.
40 feet long.
So I'm not sure exactly how many cars that would fit, if I'm being honest with you, I'm not sure.
Yes, it seems to me that this design itself is kind of acknowledging the lack of parking, especially with the fire hydrant in front.
Mhm.
And I did drive by the site over the weekend because I wanted to get a visual, and it looks much smaller in person, but so I didn't see a lot of, and it was a Sunday, and usually that's when everybody's like Sunday, I don't know, but usually everybody was home at the time I went, and it did seem pretty full. So that is going to be an issue. But like I just mentioned, it seems they're anticipating that with the garages and the long driveway. I really wish the applicant was here to kind of answer our questions. And did you say the chain link in the front is going to stay?
Yeah, as far as I know, our plan says it's going to stay. I'm not sure if the applicant intends to change that during the building process. He would have to update that on the plans, but as far as we know, it's staying.
I don't think that matches the extravagance of your own.
Yeah, that might change during the building process.
And also with the state trying to transition all of us from gas to electric, are you aware whether they're using gas appliances or electric?
I'm not. I do know that they are required to have the solar panels, which they've complied with on both the primary residence and the ADU.
Okay, because it might be wise to have both.
Right. I agree.
installed, and I tried to find that too, but it's just so tiny. So, and as far as the public comment, I'm in agreement with the parking issue. I'm also in agreement with the, condition of all landscaping being in place and growing before final occupancy, if that is allowed. If we could put that as a condition of approval, if everybody's so inclined to approve this. And another thing is, do you know if there's sprinklers in the property? I'm here for fire sprinklers.
I don't believe that was one of the conditions of it now. Then yes, then there's sprinklers. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to look through all these
I know.
conditions and it's
really
kind of,
hard to see. Well,
yeah.
If we need to make sure that that
If
is.
it's required our building official, I'm sure certainly will enforce that.
And I did want to ask if the ADU was for rental purposes and if they were going to have a parking plan, if there were going to be tenants, so
Right.
that we don't have this overflow parking issue.
Yeah, no, I understand the parking concerns and I also wish the applicant was here to answer that. I'm not sure if he intends to rent or live in the ADU.
Why don't we put this on hold? And have the applicant show up so we can discuss issues that maybe that we may have with them and get a direct answer from them.
Are we sure he's not in the waiting room?
Once you move on.
I've never met the applicant, but his name is Mr. Jose Milano, and I don't believe he's here.
Finder here.
Okay, yeah, but you would like to.
Okay, well, since we closed the public hearing to do our discussion, I'm going to reopen the public hearing if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah.
So that we can hear from the architect and owner. I don't know who you are, but I'm opening the public hearing.
My English is not very good.
Come to the microphone, please. Mi nombre, por favor.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es José Melano.
Oh, perfect. You're the owner.
Dueño del terreno.
So. Who wants to start?
La pregunta que tenemos es, ¿va a rentar la propiedad que va a estar atrás de la casa principal?
Y la voy a rentar.
Sí.
El tiempo que nomás puedo vivir en una.
Okay, so I just asked if he's going to be renting out the ADU in the back, and he said yes.
He said yes, because he can't live in both.
The parking. How is he going to address the additional parking required by the tenants?
Sí sabe que tenemos un problema con los estacionamientos que tienen principalmente la calle, ¿es la Main Street?
Yes.
En la calle 11. ¿Cómo usted piensa que puede solucionar el problema de los carros, especialmente cuando tiene la unidad atrás de la casa principal?
No sé cómo le vamos a hacer, pero para acá, la calle no se preocupe, yo no voy a estar la calle. Es suficiente por lo que tenemos allá para parqueadero.
Sorry, can I just add that the ADU is exempt from parking requirements per local and state law. So we can't ask the applicant to build additional parking for the ADU, but he meets all requirements for the primary residence.
Yeah, he said that he doesn't plan to use the street for parking, that he's going to use that driveway for parking for the ADU in the back.
May we have your name too, please?
Yes, my name is Pedro. I am paying for.
Okay. And the chain link fence, are you going to take that down and put something nicer? In the fronting the property on 11th Street?
Y el cerco se va a quedar ahí, lo que tienen ahorita, ¿se queda o lo van a tapar?
We will do that.
Todos los vemos que va a ir, va a ser una cultura de propiedad real. Todos atrás hay todos va a ser muy hermoso. Es algo hermoso que viene para la ciudad de Greenfield. Vean.
Okay, and are you going to be, are you using gas appliances or electric, or are you going to have an option for either or? Because you never know, we might be forced to move into electric. So.
Y el árbol que tienen ahí enfrente, ¿se va a quedar o lo van a quitar? ¿Dónde?
Los árboles se van a quedar. If you see that big plant, the trees will be combined. The trees they are in the property will be combined. We are to protect that big plant.
Just for purposes of the record, when you're asking questions in Spanish, can you please also say the English?
If that tree is gonna stay there.
I asked the gentleman if the tree was going to stay in
Oh, I-
place.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
sorry, it's so tiny, but yeah, so these are existing trees and they will remain.
¿Puedo hacer una pregunta?
Please, just say it in English as well.
¿En inglés?
First, please do so.
What, my question is, when you build them, that house, you plan it to bring a labor force from Greenfield, because in Greenfield, I have 4 or 5 contractors. We need to give it a job, right? Because I need, you give it mostly with the young people, give a job, especially in your construction.
Pero quiero decir,
Yo no voy a emplear gente de aquí porque yo soy mi propio constructor. Mis hermanos trabajan en construcción.
Okay. Now, okay, me preguntan que si voy a contratar gente de Greenfield para construir y yo digo que no porque nuestra familia somos constructores. Nosotros mismos la vamos a construir, la vamos a hacer muy hermosa, el driveway va a estar hermoso, pintado muy bonito, destaco, todo muy bonito pero porque nosotros mismos tenemos plomeros, chismeros, carpinteros, toda mi familia trabaja en eso.
Can somebody please translate that?
I can go ahead and translate. So he's just,
He basically said
yeah, okay.
that he's not going to hire anyone. He's not looking to hire anyone from the community because his family, they're all involved, and that's what it is. He's got people with plaster, he got the contractors, basically what he's saying. So his family is going to take on the endeavor of building a home. All right.
Correct.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for the applicant and the architect? You have any other comments you want to make while we have the public hearing open?
Yes, the design of the house was according with the design of the house was according with the new building code, and is according with the recommendation for the planning department of the city. All of the design follow the the state from the planning department, from the city of Greenfield. Yes, everything we had to everything new in the property, new in the design, we had to call to the planning department here, and everything in the design, we follow the recommendation for the planning department. Yes, parking, design, and the building, the whole building.
Great, thank you very much. Nothing else? Okay, thank you very much. So now we are, since we opened the public hearing, we can take public comment again. It's fair play to hear from the public if they want to speak on this. Any hands raised? Okay, then I'm going to close public hearing again. All right, so we have some questions answered. It's time to have discussion and decision. If you want to make a motion on page 15 of the packet.
You said one thing, you said that most of the family is going to be doing construction. Are they licensed contractors?
Yeah.
They are licensed contractors? Yeah. One of the things I have concerns about, but indeed it is a concern, is like they're going to have parking in the back, correct? How are they going to get to the back? Is there an alley back there? I don't remember seeing one.
So no, I drove by it and
So
it's
did I.
at
I mean,
Larson Street. So I think they're going to utilize that long driveway to get to those two options. And then there's another little parking.
Yeah, because I rode by there this afternoon and yeah, that was, I neglected that, Scott. That's all. Yeah, because that is a long driveway, except for that one.
Just when speaking, if you could please lean into the microphone. So
Okay. Okay. Take the action and watch.
I move that the planning commission of the city of Greenfield adopt resolution number 2023-14, granting design review approval of a 4,496 square foot single family residence with a 1,200 square foot detached accessory dwelling unit and a detached 953 square foot 4-car garage at 249 11th Street, subject to conditions of approval include in the resolution.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment to that motion to add that the landscaping is in place and growing before final inspection and occupancy as a condition of approval. We have a motion with an amendment. Is there a second? Okay.
You're going to motion?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do you want a roll call vote or? Oh, you don't have a mic. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, motion carries 5-1. Congratulations. Okay, our next public hearing is the consideration of a resolution recommending that the city council approve the cancellation of a development agreement between the city of Greenfield and Second Son LLC and rescind the associated conditional use permit CUP, allowing commercial cannabis uses on a 12.9 acre property located at 721 and 799 El Camino Real. Assessor's parcel numbers 109-161-005, 015, 016, 017, and 018. Is there a staff report?
Yes, that'll be me once again. Thank you. As you said, this next item is a request to cancel an existing development agreement and rescind the associated conditional use permit at 721 and 799 El Camino Road. So you can see here the project site. It's these two adjacent properties on El Camino Road. So these two properties currently have an existing development agreement and conditional use permit, which allows for commercial cannabis operations for Second Sun LLC. It was adopted in 2017, and included in your packet, you have the original resolution that approved it. It was approved as along with quite a few others during the cannabis boom, we can say, during 2017. So it was one of the few that was approved. Cannabis operations never advanced through the building permit process, so this recipient never actually constructed their cannabis facilities or operated in town. The recipient of the development agreement and CUP is Second Sun LLC and Golden State Alternative Care. We received a letter from the owner of both of these businesses requesting a cancellation of both the development agreement and the associated CUP. And the letter is also an attachment to the process for a development agreement cancellation requires planning commission review and recommendation. After recommendation, it goes to city council for first reading. Then it goes to another meeting for second reading and adoption of the ordinance. And the CUP rescission process will also require action by the city council following your recommendation. Typically a CUP rescission would be under the purview of the planning commission, but since it comes with the attached regulatory permit and development agreement, it falls to the city council for final action. Process also involves public hearings before both planning commission and city council. And the development agreement, both the initial agreement and the cancellation, will be recorded with the county. Staff recommends today that Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2023-15, recommending that the City Council introduce and conduct first reading on the ordinance, canceling the development agreement between the City of Greenfield and Second Sun LLC and Golden State Alternative Care, and rescind its associated conditional use permit for this property at 721 and 799 El Camino Real. And of course, you have the alternatives of choosing not to recommend or recommending with conditions. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you very much. Does anybody have questions for Ms. Meza? Okay, thank you very much. We'll open the public hearing on this. Are there any public comments from chambers on this item? Seeing none, are there any hands raised? Oh,
support the request from Mark Putney. Mr. Mark Putney was one of the companies that wanted to invest in the city of Greenfield at one time for the cannabis operations and businesses, and a request support his request tonight here at the Planning Commission.
thank you for that comment. Any other comments? Any hands raised? Okay. And Mr. Putney is not here. So we'll close the public hearing and move on to Planning Commission discussion and decision. Anybody have any comments?
Why did he decide not to go forward with this?
I'm not sure. This is a bit before my time here, but I just know that in order for him to fully dispose of his assets here, since he's not proceeding with cannabis operations, he needs to solve the development agreement. But I'm not sure.
Everything was before your time.
True, yeah, very true. But I'm not sure. But I know that he is no longer interested in pursuing cannabis operations in the city. So this is the logical next step for him.
Any other comments? Well, I'm
I'm sorry.
go ahead, no.
No. you probably don't know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyways. Is he pursuing his business in another location, in another community? Do you know that?
I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't answer that.
Sorry, sorry.
That's okay. I was just looking because we're kind of, yeah. It's page 46. Yeah, on the letter, it says that they're no longer in business. 1 second. I thought I read that.
Yeah.
So while I am sorry to see that this is happening, Mr. Urquidez and I sat on the marijuana facilities review committee, and they were, I believe, number 1 in the order of people that the city, our recommendations to accept. They put on a really great presentation. I was really looking forward to that happening, but we are at where we are at. So I think the resolution is on page 46 and 47 in the packet.
Yeah, it's a lengthy packet. We had to add all these really lengthy attachments.
I move that the planning commission adopt resolution 2023-15, recommending that the city council cancel the development agreement between the city of Greenfield and Second Sun LLC and Golden State Alternative Care Inc. for commercial cannabis operations at 721 and 799 El Camino Real, and it was rescinding the associated conditional use permit.
Thank you for that. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. We can move on to our third public hearing, which is the consideration of a resolution recommending that the city council approve the cancellation of a development agreement between the city of Greenfield and Emerald Mission and rescind the associated conditional use permit CUP, allowing commercial cannabis uses on a 1.01 acre property located at 801 El Camino Real, attached parcel number 109151021. Staff report.
So as you can see, this item is very similar to the last, so I'll try to be brief, but this is another request to cancel an existing development agreement and rescind its associated conditional use permit at 801 El Camino Real. You can see here the project site. The site currently has an existing development agreement and conditional use permit, which allows commercial cannabis operations for Emerald Mission. This was adopted along with the others in 2017. The cannabis operations never advanced through the building permit process. The recipient of the development agreement and the CUP is Dave Foss Detail LLC and Emerald Mission. The owner is currently in the process of selling the property, which is why he requested to cancel the development agreement and rescind the CUP. We received a letter from the owner requesting this. Once again, the process will just requires planning commission review and recommendation before going to city council for first and second reading and action by ordinance. The CUP rescission will also require city council final action, and we're in the stage of the first public hearing, and it'll require another public hearing. And once again, these development agreements will be recorded with the county, so will the cancellation.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
And then real quick, staff recommends that the planning commission adopt resolution 2023-16, recommending that the city council introduce and conduct first reading on the ordinance canceling the development agreement between the city and Dave Foss Detail LLC and Emerald Mission at 801 El Camino. Thank you.
Thank you. Any initial questions for Ms. Mesa? You found it from the public hearing?
Did you attach the letter that they sent?
Yes, it should be an attachment to the packet.
Page 110 and 111. No other questions for Ms. Meza? We'll open up the public hearing. I did see Mr. Bosworth.
He should be here via Zoom.
Yeah, I
Think if we
saw
can.
him pop up, but is he still there? Mr. Bosworth, if you'd like to unmute, we're on the public hearing portion. Do you have any comments?
No, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. No, I don't have any comments. I'm here for you guys, obviously. Is there anything you gotta ask me?
I don't know if this is necessarily a question for you, maybe for planning staff, but when this property is sold, do any of these entitlements stay with the property, or is it wiped out with this cancellation?
It'll be wiped out with this cancellation. I'm not sure what the new buyer will want to do with the property, but I think he wants a clean slate. To my understanding, the property is mixed use, light industrial.
Correct. Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Bosworth? Okay. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you for your consideration. I greatly appreciate it.
Are there any other public comments from chambers? Hands raised.
No hands raised.
Okay. We close the public hearing. Move on to planning commission discussion and decision. Well, I have the same comments as I did for the last item. I recall Emerald Green as well. Emerald Mission, I'm sorry. So I'm sorry to see this not move forward. They were great applicants as well. But I understand. So if anybody has any comments, now's the time. Otherwise, there's a motion on page 98 of the packet.
I move that the planning commission adopt resolution 2023-16, recommending the city council cancel the development agreement between the city of Greenfield and Dave Ross. They bought Retail LLC and Mission for commercial cannabis operations at 801 El Camino Real and rescind the associated conditional use.
Thank you for that. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Moving right along to public hearing number 4, which is the consideration of a resolution approving a design review for a 3-story, 84-unit hotel with guest amenities, including an exercise room, spa, outdoor pool, breakfast buffet area, and a bar at a 1.93 acre property at 379 Walnut Avenue.
All right.
Assessor parcel numbers 109-116-002-007 and a portion of APN 109-116-006 and 008. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Paul Mugen with Community Development. Pleased to be here tonight to bring this project forward for Planning Commission consideration. Staff and the applicant have been working on this for a good 4 years since the previous applicant left town under questionable circumstances. You may recall that was in approximately 2018. At that time, the city was owed at least a right-hand turn lane northbound off of 101 on Walnut that never was completed. That made it very concerning for any future applicant to bring a project forward. So we worked closely with this applicant and Grange Hospitality, and a member of that development team is here this evening. Should you have any questions regarding the project? A brief history of the project would include a minor discussion about its location in the Walnut Avenue specific plan. The specific plan was adopted by the City Council in 2014 to designate approximately 62.5 acres for the specific purpose of attracting to our community various commercial projects, both secondary and primary commercial. As noted in the second slide, there has been significant effort to populate the specific plan. That effort has focused primarily on secondary type developments, which are terrific, but the primary developments like a hotel were hoped for, planned for, and aspired for when the specific plan was put together. The hotel is identified in the specific plan itself on various conceptual land use plans. And this particular site is on approximately 30,000 square foot parcel. So a breakdown of what's already on the specific plan is before you on this particular slide, either already entitled and in business, such as Starbucks and Carl's Jr., and or under construction, such as the Jamba Juice and the Chef and the Pizza Hut, Chester's Chicken. The project obviously is located inside the specific plan area, and which authorized 445,000 square feet of commercial activity on the site. This hotel will be the only hotel of its kind between the city of Salinas and San Luis Obispo. So we're pleased to welcome the project tonight. It's a Marriott Town Place Hotel consisting of 84 rooms. The hotel has a 17,000 square foot footprint on the 1.93 acre parcel. The 3-story building includes 84 guest rooms, a spa, exercise room, meeting room, a guest laundry area, breakfast area, buffet breakfast area, and a bar. A 1,763 square foot outside pool area is proposed, along with 15,310 square feet of landscaping and 50,000 square feet of paid parking area for parking and circulation. Okay, this slide depicts a visual essentially of the specific plan itself and those portions of it that so far have been developed. Staff was pleased to report that an application for a tentative map came in 2 weeks ago to split up additional portions of the specific plan, which normally is a clue that additional development is on its way once these discrete parcels are created. Slide 5 is a bird's eye view of what the rendition of the project. The project has been through interdepartmental review multiple times because there's been back and forth between the applicant and the various departments, and is conditioned with 41 conditions of approval. In addition to the conditions identified in your packet as an attachment, the City Council has authorized and directed the city manager to prepare and execute an economic development agreement. to memorialize the city's willingness to incentivize the project with nominal transient occupant tax relief. Specifically, the terms approved by the city council would require the city to rebate to the developer transient occupant taxes for years 1 through 4 in their entirety, beginning in year 4 through 6. During months where the hotel has occupancy of 80% or above, that 80% of that rebate is returned to the city from the applicant. So the more successful the hotel is, the least duration the TOT relief will be in effect. And however, regardless, the agreement sunsets at 10 years, regardless of the occupancy. The 4 to 6 year term is added as an incentive for them to be successful. And opportunities at the hotel range from between 10 to 20 employees. The applicant, of course, is here to discuss that. Should it be that issue be of interest to the Planning Commission? Should the Planning Commission approve the subject design review and the associated conditions of approval, the development team would be free to prepare building permit plans to prepare for construction, and an estimated timeline for construction has yet to be discussed with the applicant. We do know that they are already inquiring as to the requirements for the electric code, so they're anxious to prepare the building permits and get moving toward construction. That concludes staff's remarks. Some of the vital components of the project are included on this slide. The size of the guest rooms range between 305 and 445 square feet. And the project also calls for payment of in-lieu fees for various projects for improvements along the Walnut Avenue, specifically traffic signals on the southbound ramps and the northbound ramps at Walnut. And the street B is proposed to be widened to make an acceleration lane. That said, and this is above our pay grade, but there has been recent discussion about the possibility of roundabouts at that location sometime in the future. So the project is designed with the possibility that could occur in the future. The applicant also has agreed to the extent possible, have a local hire policy for employment at the site. And with that, I will conclude staff's remarks, but be available to answer any land use questions that the applicant may not be able to answer. Representative Grange Hospitality is here. As I said, this has been a development in the works for approximately 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Megan, for that staff report. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Megan?
I have one question. What are you doing the Walnut in the freeway? Because we need ramps and sidewalks when the hotel is finished. Because the Walnut in the front of the freeway, those four stop signs, we need ramps for the pedestrians walking right there. It's very dangerous at this area.
I'm sorry, I wasn't able to understand those.
He's asking about the ramps and along Walnut Avenue. We need that because pedestrians are walking along that.
Yes, that's okay.
Yes, good.
Thank you. I apologize for my hearing is that good. The, I don't want to the answer to your question, I don't have all of the facts now. The Public Works Director just recently was interviewed on the news and has prepared. There are right now plans, I believe, that there's an RFQ on the distributed now among the public to conduct work to finish the sidewalk. I didn't have time to include that. I wanted to include that in the report because that's an issue that is of great interest to everybody. But I will report back to the council. I'm sorry, to the Planning Commission regarding that issue because it's not dormant. The city is working in real time towards finishing a sidewalk on either side of the interchange.
So are they working on both sides or one versus the other?
I don't know. I don't know that, sir.
My way is you need them both sides.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
not the
know.
one side, but both sides.
I know.
And that one you need big signs. You have to crossing. You need the what I say, bullets. So many safety, especially for the people to walk in the night.
Any other comments or questions for staff?
Yeah, I've got a question. Mr. Mugen, I think I know the answer to this, but who's going to be responsible for the proposed traffic lights at on 101? And who's going to be responsible for the street lighting on walls?
Okay, those projects would fall under the AB 16 law. As an example, just speaking as an example, EAH just applied for their building permits. As part of their impact fees, the city collected $1.6 million that is being distributed to fire, public works, all of the entities that are benefiting from the collection of these impact fees. From these impact fees, specific projects are itemized, and we're reporting to the state regarding the amounts of money collected by impact fees and what projects those fees are paying for. And so in the case of your specific question, the Public Works Department, along with the city engineer, is responsible for managing the signaling of those intersections and the widening of those intersections. Those three, I guess we'd call them the conditions. That money is going into an in-lieu fund because, as pursuant to the specific plan, the specific plan called for the in-lieu payment of fees for these improvements. So the Public Works Department and the city engineer is responsible for managing the fees and the expenditure of those fees on these specific projects.
But the city itself will not actually participate in the installation of the light, right? Won't that be put out to bid?
That is correct. City staff won't be doing the installation. It would be contracted out.
Right.
And it does say in the staff report, and the applicant can touch on this when it's his or her turn, but that the project would contribute its fair share of funding towards the intersection improvements, which include the 101 southbound ramp at Walnut with the traffic signal, the widening of Walnut, and US 101 northbound, including traffic signal and widening, and street feed. They are adding to, which is the perimeter of that project.
Yeah,
Correct.
yes.
So gonna be hopefully a big pot of resources going to that because it's desperately needed. You guys have questions for Mr. Megan?
Yeah, there will be cameras, right? Surveillance cameras.
Cameras? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Keith? Do you have one? No. Mr. Keith, do you have a question for Ms. Megan? No? Okay, yeah, I think, I like the fact that it is, going to maintain a 3-star rating. That's a nice positive aspect of this project. And I like the fact that, it's gonna be first of its kind between Salinas and, San Luis, was it?
Yes, San Luis Obispo.
Oh, San Luis. All right, and
I have another question. I continue for my saying the same thing. When they're building this hotel, I would like to bring up workers from Greenfield. The workers from Greenfield to work in this project. Because a lot of people from Greenfield, a lot of young people also came with that, especially in this big project. You bring, like in the past, like I say, I had a few contacts from Greenfield. We need to hire these people, especially from Greenfield.
Yes,
Here's another recommendation.
yes.
Now, when you're referring to hiring people from Greenfield,
Yeah,
are you talking about the construction of it or the ones that put up that they hire people to work in it?
the working, no, the working and then the project and the project, like a carpenters, electrician, something like that.
Yeah, but those type of jobs,
I know,
those types of jobs are put up on the unions.
I know,
If you're not a union member, you're not gonna work it.
I know, it's up to you.
yeah, I think I read in the staff report that Greenfield residents would be given preference for those jobs. So if I could finish on the conditions of approval number 8, which is about the project description and frontage improvements and additional landscaping for the party responsible for compliance as well as the timing. Both of those indicate NA, non-applicable. So I was wondering what that was about. Somebody gonna be responsible for that?
Okay, yes, the planning, I'm sorry, the project description is a routine addition. You'll notice that the format of these conditions is slightly different than the planning commission has seen before. And the specific answer to your question is it's only a project description. There isn't a requirement to do anything with it. It's just a description. It's the official project description for what we're considering today. That's all there is. And then I wasn't sure the other condition, if it has an NA, we will review that to assign a responsible party for it if we missed that assignment. What we would ask the planning commission, if you don't mind, in the motion is to add the condition that the chart conditions of approval be required to be included on the first page of the building permit plan set. That way, when the construction project plans that are on site and staff are building the structure, all of the conditions of approval also are on site. Things such as the proper time for construction, proper days of the week, that kind of thing. And it's just a slight different approach, but we think it's a better approach, just having them in this format.
Okay. No other questions for Mr. Nugent. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. And if the applicant or architect or whoever's in charge, if you'd like to.
Good evening, commissioners. I'm here to answer any questions you have about this hotel. One of the the questions you had is about hiring locals. So if they're qualified, we would absolutely love it. It actually makes our job a little easier because they're not traveling, they're not dealing with closed roads or anything else to get to work. And as far as hotel staff once the hotel opens. I think the numbers quoted between 10 and 20. We actually have another hotel that's very similar to this, and the numbers are really 18 to like 28, depending on part-time workers and staff availability. And again, it's in our best interest to hire someone who's local that can get from their house to the hotel in 15 minutes versus having to drive 2 hours.
Can we get your name, please, for the record?
I'm sorry, first name is Jigish, Jigish, last name Shah, Shah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shaw. Did you want to make any comments or?
We're excited about this project. As earlier stated, we have actually a set of plans ready to submit. Unfortunately, they're under the old building code, so we'll have to update them to the new building code once they're ready, which we're estimating will be about 3 months for us to get our side ready and about another 3 to 6 months for plan review, whether it's done in-house or by an outside third party that the city takes care of. Then we start construction, and we're looking at about a 16 to 18 month construction window.
Very good.
You mentioned that there's another hotel similar to this one. Where is that one?
Tehachapi.
So, Mr. Megan, if you could go back to slide 5. Or maybe it's 6. 7.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3.
It's of the building. We passed it. Oh. That one.
Mm-hmm.
So where's the pool? It's supposed to be an outside pool. I don't see it.
It's on the backside.
Okay. Is there any rendering of the pool at all?
No, I don't have it.
And
I looking for that.
So I also saw in the staff report that there's going to be a meeting room or a conference room that was going to be made available for local nonprofits and the city to use free of charge.
If it's available.
Okay. And as far as the bar and the spa and the pool, is that for guests only?
It's meant to be for guests only, yes.
So the other one you have, Hatchby, correct?
Mhm.
Is that the only one you have? You have others scattered throughout the state?
So the organization owns multiple hotels. The one in Tehachapi is closest to this because it's a 3-story. We've got others that are 4-story. The Town Place brand has many others that are 4-story or larger. This particular one in Tehachapi is almost a carbon copy of this, but obviously whatever we learned in Tehachapi will improve here. One of the things you can't see in there, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Town Place, but you see that there's a white awning that comes out and there's a little gap, and then there's another straight awning. That little spot right there in front of it is actually a fireplace, so people can sit out around it in beautiful weather. And underneath that second awning that's on your right is actually barbecues for the guests to use.
Those black things that we see on top of those solar panels?
So those are a placeholder for solar panels. By California Building Code, we are required to prep the building for solar panels. So all the conduits and the infrastructure will be there. Comes down to some dollars and cents, whether they will be or not on day one.
Does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Shaw?
The restaurant, is that going to be open for anybody or just for guests?
So it's not a restaurant, so it's a breakfast buffet for the guests only. And so is the bar.
I think I asked all my questions. Are there any public comments on this item? Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Senator Zepio was kind of in a hurry. So good evening, planning commissioners, and congratulations to Jose Vasquez of being appointed to the planning commission. I know that this is a very exciting project. A little bit of a history on it. This is part of the area that's being built is an area of the former RDA. It was in our RDA. I was on the city council during that time. The RDA, the redevelopment agency, was taken out by Governor Brown in 2012. But this was part of a project area that I remember meeting with John Robershotti's dad. For all those who know John Robershotti, very, very straightforward guy. His dad said, "John, we're not ready to do hotels or retail stores. We're growing broccoli." So it's a little history back then. I was a few years back, but to see that up there, it's totally awesome. I appreciate the commitment from the gentleman that spoke to invest here in the city of Greenfield in our community. We all know that our families, we invite a lot of people to our homes, and they come for quinceañeras and weddings and graduations. Well, the list is endless. And so a lot of folks stay in King City or Soledad, and then those that produces tax revenues for those cities and us, well, is no longer with seeing this. Now we have a place that's, a star rating number 3, something similar to what the Monterey Peninsula has. The second part is on the comments from your staff on the former developer. I know that developer had developers looking at Hampton Inn and Suites, and then also the Marriott Fairfield place. Also, without this developer that your staff mentions, you would probably not have a Starbucks. Our community would not have a Carl's Jr. or Arco AM/PM. He worked tirelessly on getting those to Greenfield at this site to start the Walnut Avenue specific plan so we can continue moving forward. And so I would request that the city just, that's the past. I think it's time to move forward with this awesome opportunity that we have with the gentleman that just spoke and bringing a Class A hotel to Greenfield in our community. It's going to be probably between San Luis Obispo and Salinas, there's going to be nothing like it besides what Paso Robles has in Atascadero. But thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any other public comments from chambers?
Good evening. I have a question. Is there going to be a media room? There is a media room. And when it says bar, what kind of bar is that?
For the hotel guests to enjoy.
Just like a counter, small little thing like.
Or more than likely to be beer and wine.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be something else that would have to come before you to apply for beer and wine license. Okay. I think it's really great. I worked, my accounting career started as a night auditor in Soledad at the Valley Harvest Inn. So I was there for 13 years. It's going to bring in a lot of money for us because in Soledad, a lot of the rooms they don't even rent them anymore at the Valley Harvest Inn because they use it as H2A. And so the hotel next to it is actually available, 100%. So this is really going to do us great to have that here. And not only that, I do work for a winery, and one of the owner was telling me that they want to start doing a lot more things as far as wine country here in the Salinas Valley, especially South Monterey County. But again, where are they going to stay at? So this is really going to be an asset to the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. My name is Raul Damian Tapia, and I just want to, thank the Planning Commission for being here present, in full entirety. And Mr. Mugen, thank you for that well-versed explanation in regard to this project. I'm a firm believer of advancement demands change, right? And so in order for us to be able to move forward, we have to accept that, we have to make some changes within our city, and, Mr. Shaw, thank you so much, giving us the guarantee that there are going to be potential jobs for, local residents to be able to go ahead and travel from point A to point B without any complications, because, the road construction and stuff like that, and the freeway is gonna be hectic, so. I really believe that this is a project that could possibly be beneficial for our people, and our people is what is, it should be at the highlight in the forefront of everything, there's unemployment rising. And so with that project coming to place and jobs opening up, I think people will be happier here, and the investment is long lasting and for long term. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So let's make it happen.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from chambers?
Can I make it one point?
I'll give you one more shot. Are there any hands raised?
No hands raised.
Okay. With that, I'm gonna close the public hearing. And then we'll move to commission discussion.
Yes, one question. You want a hall in the hotel? A hall for the Paris hall? Yes, hall.
There's a meeting room, it's not necessarily a hall, not this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, discussion and decision, please.
Well, I'd like to go on the record that, and I've said this previously, that anything that creates tax revenue, open up the opportunity for our residents for employment, I'm all for it. And this would be a great opportunity. I just hope it doesn't fizzle out like the other one did. I mean, the other one, we had high expectations for it, and then boom, it just kind of like this faded. And so, thank you for giving Greenfield the opportunity to afford you to be able to build here. Thank you very much.
I am also excited. I hope this goes through. I think Greenfield needs this. South Monterey County needs this. It's funny. I had a coworker that came to Greenfield, and she's like, "Where do people stay here?" And I'm like, "Well." So this is going to be nice. I will share this with her, but I'm excited. I hope this does goes through, and I hope this creates, jobs for our community. We also need that. And yeah.
Okay. I don't have anything much more to add other than I'm very grateful with my colleagues and the public commenters that this is coming to Greenfield. I'm excited to see it happen. And I will be a guest there to take advantage of that pool one of these days.
Can I say something? Same thing. Thank you for the comment to Greenfield.
Okay, so I lost my page here. Motions. One,
I move that the planning commission of the city of Greenfield adopt the resolution number 2023-17, approving design review for a 3-story, 84-unit hotel with guest community, including an exercise room, spa, outdoor pool, breakfast buffet area, and a bar on a 1.93 acre parcel at 379 Walnut Avenue. APS 109-116-002-007. Portions of the 109 116-006 and -008.
Okay, I'd like to make another friendly amendment to your motion pursuant to Mr. Mugen's instructions to include that the conditions of approval are on the first page of the building plan set for ease of reference.
Yes, thank you.
So that is the entire motion. If there's a
I
second.
make a motion to approve.
Okay, you made the motion and I made the amendment. So would you like to second?
Yeah, I take the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations and welcome to Greenfield.
Let's get it going.
All right, moving right along. We are now on public hearing number 5. Is everybody okay? You want to take a little break or should we just keep plugging along.
Go get a pizza.
Okay, so we'll move on to public hearing number 5, which is to consider adoption of a resolution recommending that the city council approve a design review for a new 20,000 square foot prefabricated steel building for commercial cannabis cultivation operations, a new paved parking lot with 24 parking spaces, and additional landscaping on an existing 3.18 acre partially developed lot at 689 El Camino Real, APN 109-162-012. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Paul Eugen. The Nutfish project for Planning Commission consideration consists of further development of what once was a struggling cannabis licensee. The subject site was among the original 13 licensees in the city, but never prospered. Their original entitlements were approved in 2017, along with the original licensees. However, by 2019, the site was in severe disrepair. It lacked any valid regulatory permits to conduct business, and it owed back tax revenues. Since then, the applicant has structured business upgrades into a 3-phase approach. First, the applicant caught up on back taxes as the first thing they did. Second, in 2021, the city approved a design review for a 14,000 square foot upgrade to the building, which also included authorization for cultivation. So now, under our cannabis regulations, they are approved for cultivation, manufacturing, and distribution. Part of that approval included over 1,000 linear feet of decorative wrought iron fencing. And that's, I especially want to call that out because it's a great example for anyone else in the city that's interested in meaningful improvements to their site. Previously, where you see the decorative fence, it used to be chain link with barbed wire at this location. Instead, it really looks terrific. In February of this year, the city approved a regulatory permit for the applicant to conduct cannabis operations from its phase 1 development. The Planning Commission's request to tour the facility also has been brought to the attention of the property owner, and we're arranging that for all of you. The guidance, however, was that we have to go in small groups because of the potential for contamination of the product. As many of you are very aware, this is a summary of the basic data that I just described to you, the past history and where we are today, with a Google Earth photo of the entire site. The cannabis industry, as many of you are very well aware, has been very fluid in recent years. The operators that we have in Greenfield today continue to hire employees, improve the real property, and hopefully they will continue to be successful in our community. Slide 9 before you shows the phased plan. The phase 1 is entirely completed, including the new landscaping, the new parking, the significant upgrades to the existing building are all completed, and they enjoy a certificate of occupancy and are currently in business. Phase 2 before you today proposes a 20,000 square foot fabricated building for the purpose of, let's see, there it is. You can see the visual. It's a large building for the purpose of also cultivation and a distribution function for their entire site. There are some of the basic vital information associated with the project. It's a 3.18 acre site. The building is 20,000 square foot that's proposed before you today for approval, along with 24 new parking spaces with one ADA accessible. New pathways and new landscaping is provided. The remaining detail before you are detailed apportionment of how the 20,000 square foot building will be broken down with drying rooms, propagation rooms, cultivation area, fertilizer and irrigation rooms, prepackaging rooms, and so forth, as detailed in your staff report. The last slide in staff's presentation is from the site plan. It clearly indicates the building. There is not really a lot to this project. It's a 20,000 square foot building, really designed to accomplish their business purposes of cultivation, manufacturing, and the distribution of crop. And that concludes staff's remarks, and I'll try and answer questions if I can.
Okay, thank you very much for that staff report. Do we have any initial questions for Mr. Mugen about this project?
How many employees work there now?
Between 10 and 20. Oh, I'm sorry. Right now, the last number that I saw was 5 or 6 employees are in the current phase 1 operation.
Okay.
Mhm.
I recently spoke to, I'm sorry, Bob, are you done?
That's my other question was that, you guys spoke to someone about.
I did recently, just within the last couple of weeks, as I was riding by there was one of their employees was leaving the building, leaving the premises actually. So I stopped and I asked him a couple of questions, and that's when he told me they have 5 full-time employees, and that's it. And I said, really? I thought you guys were gonna have like about 20 guys there. He said, oh, no. He said, everything we have is high tech. We need minimal people here to run the operation. But so my question now is, with the additional building, are they planning to harvest, is that gonna be medicinal or recreational cannabis?
There hasn't been a distinction made between it. To the best of my knowledge, the law isn't distinguishing it between medicinal and recreational anymore. But it's principally a cultivation facility, the larger building.
And do you know, or are you aware, do they do single tiers or are they multiple tiers of cultivation?
That's an issue that we will monitor very closely for tax purposes.
Right, exactly.
The tiering is taxable square foot.
Right.
So the short answer is I don't know if they plan to tier the crop at this time, but we will find that out once it comes time for the regulatory permit. When we issue the regulatory permit to say you're good for business, we'll fully assess the floor plan and whether there's tiering so we can get the tax rate.
Yeah, 'cause, I had addressed this previously with another, I forget which one it was. And I asked if they were just single tiers or multiple tiers, and I mean, for that purpose, I mean, if they're just one tier, okay, well, it's a flat rate, but if you have multiple tiers, then the tax revenues start to go up. Yeah, so-
There's a raised hand. I don't know if they're trying to answer that question.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Oh, okay, we're in council questions right now. So I'm not council, but commission. Sorry.
No, but I mean, that's something we need to look into. And yeah, I mean, at this point, we wouldn't know how many additional people would be hired. Yeah, that's my 2 cents worth.
Any other questions for staff? I'll ask you, but I welcome a response from the applicant if he comes back. That this is the odor mitigation elimination will be achieved with the use of carbon filters in a completely sealed environment. I was looking at the rendering of the building and I don't see any venting. So maybe if we can have, how does that work? If it's completely sealed, where's the odor going?
Is Justin here?
Yeah, no, good evening, Madam Chair and Planning Commission. This is Paul Janowski. I'm representing the applicant, Justin Pearson.
Welcome.
So I'll be able to answer any questions you have regarding to the design, construction of the 20,000 square foot building, and I'll do my best to answer any questions regarding operations. I'm not involved in the operations of the facility, but I'm involved from a distance because I need to understand their operations in order to design a facility for them to be successful in. So yeah, any questions that you guys have, most recent question being venting. So the rooms have CO2, and in order to be compliant, code compliant with CO2, we need the ability to purge the rooms from the CO2 if there's too much CO2 in the room. And we do that with an exhaust fan. You won't see it from the building, and the current building has exhaust fans. But typically for cultivation, we like a sealed environment where we're recirculating the air and scrubbing the air. We don't want to bring any contaminants from outside in. And we also, we don't want to exhaust any of the air out. And if we do, it's done through a carbon filter that will clean the air from any odors before it gets exhausted to the atmosphere.
Okay, thank you for that. That's a great explanation. Any other comments from Mr. Janowski? Questions? Okay, it doesn't seem like we have any here. Are there any public comments from chambers? Any other hands raised?
No hands raised.
Okay, last call for questions from the applicant's representative. Otherwise, I'm going to close the public hearing and move on to Planning Commission discussion and decision. So there's a mention on page 179, and this is just phase 2. We've all known this was coming. It's a 3-phase project. I just want to mention that the phase 1, I've received a lot of compliments from community members that they really like the building improvements and the fencing and how much of an improvement it is for ECR.
I have one additional comment here. I ride with it a lot, right? And I ride past the loud pack every day. And there's a significant difference in smell and the odor between the two buildings. This one, I mean, there's no denying that the odor is pretty strong, regardless of what they're doing. But the new one, I mean, there's a tiny bit, I mean, it's still detectable, but it's not near as severe as this one. So, yeah, the filtering they do is a great job.
No,
it went going for the one. Well, the Mount Pack, their smell is gotten a lot better than when it first opened up. Because you go by the school over there, you smell it real bad. You don't really smell it on it when you. Well, you know, a little bit, but not quite a bit. I find it kind of ironic that, well, I was at a car show in Monterey a couple weeks ago, Exotics on Broadway, and there was a guy parked next to my car, and he owns one of the cannabis growers. He's one of the cannabis growers in Monterey. He's right there on Broadway, and he was telling me that the cannabis industry is going to die within the next couple of years. He said there's so many guys that are pulling out because there's a glutton of it now, and yet here we have this individual here, and we're going to expand. So, yeah, good luck. I'm glad that they're coming in. I mean, it's going to create revenue and jobs. Maybe not a whole lot of jobs, but every job counts, right? So, yeah, I'd like to make a motion if possible. I move that the planning commission of the city of Greenfield adopt resolution number 2023-18, recommending that the city council approve a design review permit for the next wave phase 2 improvements at 689 El Camino Real.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. So if it's okay, can we take a little 3-minute break before we move on to our last public hearing?
Sure.
Is that okay? Okay.
Before we go to break, do you mind stating the time to return?
And at 7:45, we'll come back at 7:50. Thank you. Okay, we're back on the record. Thank you for that little break. And we are going on to public hearing number 6, which is the consideration of a resolution recommending that the city council deny a design review and development agreement for a proposed 3-story, 36,410 square foot building with 24 multifamily residential units, a 2,700 square foot community room, and 8,885 square feet of commercial floor area on a 1.42 acre undeveloped site on the east side of 4th Street between Apple and Palm Avenue, APN 024-151-011. We have a staff report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Paul Mugen for Community Development, members of the Planning Commission. There will not be a PowerPoint presentation regarding this issue because the issues involved are actually very simple. As the chairperson noted, the appropriate decision-making body for this design approval is the City Council because of the proposed development agreement that the applicant has asked for. The Planning Commission's role tonight is to vote on a recommendation to the City Council, and staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council denial of the project. And here's the issue. The property is zoned highway commercial, and the project proposal is a residential project. Beyond that, the issues are a lot of noise. The applicant is here. The applicant is undoubtedly going to present to the Planning Commission a wonderful project. But again, the problem that professional staff has and the challenge that we have with supporting this project is it's zoned under the general plan, and then under the zoning code, it's a commercial parcel. Not only is it zoned as a commercial parcel, it's an excellent commercial parcel. It has highway visibility. It abuts 2 interchanges. It's really a high quality commercial property. Like I said, you'll hear a wonderful project from the applicant who is here tonight. Mr. Elliott has been great to work with, the project applicant, and the strong proponent of the project. From the outset, of course, he recognizes the problems with the zoning. The parcel is zoned highway commercial and is not zoned for a high density residential project. In effect, the proposal tonight is a 24 unit apartment building on a prime commercial parcel. The mixed use overlay that is attached to the parcel at most would permit just 6 residential units. Here, the applicant is proposing 4 times the density from what is allowed by the zoning. As such, staff cannot support this proposal. To the extent that the need for housing is at issue, there are many properly zoned parcels for multifamily residential housing in the city of Greenfield. I don't have to remind the Planning Commission the city's Cycle 5 arena performance, where we were hundreds of percentiles above our apportionment. And also, I would suggest to the Planning Commission that the city is right on track the first year of Cycle 6 to also provide to meet and exceed its RENA numbers for the next 8 years. Not only is the subject parcel zoned for commercial development, the parcel is a prime parcel abutting Highway 101, nearly abutting an interchange in between 2 others, with high visibility, where an average of 60,000 vehicles pass by daily. A review of the administrative record associated for this project indicates that at least since 2018, the property owner applicant has yet to submit any project that is consistent with its base zoning. The earliest correspondence from city officials in 2018 indicate that past proposals always required a zoning code change, which means a general plan amendment change. With respect to the subject proposal, the Greenfield Municipal Code allows more density than permitted by zoning through approval of a development agreement approved by ordinance by the City Council. Staff would recommend denial of such a proposal to the City Council for several reasons. First, it is contrary to the zoning on the property. And second, clearly best use of the parcel is for commercial purposes. This is what the general plan expects. This is what the EIR or the general plan studied. And this is what the zoning code has zoned the parcel for. Highway commercial with an attached overlay for which no more than 6 units ever would be permitted. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council deny the subject proposal for a 24-unit apartment building on the site. Staff would also like to point out that the subject initial study for the project mitigates circulation or parking problems by paying an in lieu fee. Now, in the law, there's nothing wrong with that. However, the property is not zoned for residential purposes, so there are no controls in place regarding how many vehicles belonging to how many residents and visitors would be permitted at the site. No controls. If problems arose, no matter how severe, the applicant proposed they would just pay an in lieu fee. Like I said, that's consistent with the law, but may not be real consistent with the challenges that beset the city regarding parking. Nowhere in the initial study is the project analyzed with specific impacts from the project identified. All the mitigation is simply an in lieu fee. This problem further supports staff recommendation for project denial. So staff will be quiet now and permit the Planning Commission to conduct its business.
Okay, thank you for that report. Are there any initial questions for Mr. Mugen on this? Any questions for Mr. Mugen?
This looks like it's pretty clear cut. I mean, it's one, it's your own commercial when you're trying to put residential.
Okay, so if there's no questions for staff, I'm going to open up the public hearing. I see.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners.
Good evening.
My name is David Elliott. I'm the architect. Been working on this project for a while. And this project was before you for the first time 1 year ago. So 1 year ago, you denied the project to move on to the City Council. However, we already had a meeting coming up 2 weeks later with the City Council. So we attended that. And then we felt that we would like the opportunity to come back to you and explain what our project was all about. So I have several consultants that are online able to more deeply discuss their particular issues. We have Christine Kemp, and she is our attorney, and she's come up with this wonderful idea of the development agreement, which solves a lot of problems, and I'll let her explain how that works. We also have the traffic engineer, because you had some questions about the traffic engineer, and I'm not sure he's on because he just got out of the hospital with some heart conditions. And so I'm not sure he's going to be on. The civil engineer, there were questions about how the 4th Street was going to be developed toward the freeway. And so he's prepared a more detailed plan at your request. We did turn the staff report says we didn't answer that, but however, the last presentation we gave did answer that, but not to the full condition, the full request of the staff. So we have gone another level, and he'll be able to explain that. So let me say what happened a year ago. And before I do that, we'd like to show you a little presentation that our staff did to show you what kind of project, what this looked like. Something that I think you'd be proud of to be in the city of Greenfield. if the staff could show the video for me, I'd appreciate it. Well, Palmas to Greenfield. The music in there somewhere. So we're traveling around. This is the 4th Street view. Coming around the corner. And up the driveway, one of the 2 driveways that go all the way through. And this is the back of the project. At one of the original proposals, we had all the buildings up against the back property line, and that was considered, even though we're calling this 3-story, no one enters their apartment or their house without with only going 1 story. So when you go up 1 story, the townhouses have an internal stair that goes up to their upper level, but everyone enters their home at the 2nd level. We're looking for something of quality. We think this is something that, even though you have a substantial amount of housing that is low-income housing, we think this is a step up. And a lot of those people that would like to live here, and this would be a step up. There are 24 units, and there are 3-story units, and they're townhouses. So the 2-story units, the 2-bedroom units are townhouses. So those are usually custom condominiums for sale. So these fit that same kind of quality. The 3 bedrooms are for larger families, and there's several of those. And then we have had discussions with the Deneen Gus. She's the superintendent of the Monterey County Office of Education. So I am actually in the process of designing 3 projects, one in Salinas, one in Monterey County, and this one. And we presented them all to the superintendent of the school district. They are so hungry for getting reasonable cost housing for their teachers. So we've said we want us on all 3 of these projects, we're going to give them an allotment of the units that are going to be for them at a discounted rate. And then we're also even providing a methodology to have an equity position when they leave. So the young teachers getting out of school, they can't live in this county because of the cost of living. They can't live here. So they lose them. They invite them and then they lose them. So we're interested in supplying that kind of person. That's who some of our clientele are going to be at this project. And I'm glad to get more information from the school district about that. So they're buying units and all kinds of things. We think this project fits for school housing. And let's see, when we left the meeting last time, you denied it. And then we got a letter in September 8th, just after the meeting. And here's the things that were said. The things that you were concerned about is the loss of commercial zoning development opportunities, particularly along the Highway 101 corridor, which Paul obviously has reiterated. Now, also, when it came before you, there wasn't a request for denial from the staff. So we were just looking at the project. And at that time, the project was quite different. It had 32 units and it had a small amount of commercial, but the commercial could only be used for the tenants. So that's why we had a laundromat and we had a C-store that was going to serve the tenants. Okay. So that really was difficult for the project financially. And then actually we got great help from the staff who helped us figure out how we could have the commercial units in the project. And so we proposed it that way. And then Christine had even a better idea because of the issue of changing the general plan and stuff. That gets very complicated. So the development agreement is the way to go. And I can tell you, it's not new to you because you just denied the change 2 of them and you just added one for the hotel. So it's not a new idea. It's a very good idea, and I'm going to let Christine tell you a little bit more about that. Christine?
Sure. Good evening, Commissioners. Christine Kemp on behalf of the project applicant and property owner. I was not involved when it came before the Planning Commission before, but I think there was concern about the commercial use, about the laundromat being a commercial use. There was concern about alcohol sale on the property. There was concern about the minimal amount of commercial property, and there was concern about the density of the units. So since that time, and then I became involved, the applicant has lowered the units from 32 to 24. They have increased the commercial zoning area, the commercial square footage up to 8,000 square feet. And then I want to make it very clear that it's in a mixed use overlay district. So when one of the commissioners mentioned this is very clear cut, it is not that clear cut at all. And when I'm disappointed to hear comments from staff that there's just no controls on this property at all, because that's simply not the case. We have a mixed use overlay, and it's in your code at section 1742.030. And we came up with this with Rob Mullane, the contract city planner. And the point of this is that it does not involve a general plan amendment. It does not involve a rezoning, yet it's an avenue by which you can obtain residential uses in a commercial zone along with the commercial uses. It's called mixed use. That's why it's a mixed use overlay. And the mixed use overlay is section 1742.030, section C and D, and it says that the mixed use overlay establishes residential uses as a permitted use, and that's why it's before you for design approval only. It's a permitted use. For this section, mixed use development means residential units developed in conjunction with an underlying zoning district. Residential units are permitted on the second and third stories or behind commercial on the ground floor. So your code specifically allows for this. And then residential units as part of a mixed development are allowed in the CH zoning district, which is what commercial highway is. And they're subject to the allowed uses and permit requirements designated on that land use table. And that table is in section 17.261. And that specifically lists the types of uses. It's a table in your zoning code that lists the types of uses that could be made on this site. That's residential uses, that's commercial uses, and the development has to comply with the development standards for the underlying zoning district in which it's in. And so it's not open a free for all of what's going to happen there. It's going to be only the uses that would have been allowed in the commercial highway commercial with an additional residential uses. So and of importance on that chart in section 1726.1, the chart, and if you're familiar with it, it runs along the top and it has all your different zoning districts. And of great importance, I think, to at least the one person who spoke publicly about the project was that alcohol sales are not allowed on the property unless there's a use permit. So the alcohol, even if there were a store there, the alcohol could not be added to the store without a use permit. The other so it's very highly regulated on what can be there with the use permit and allowed use, as well as the residential use, all allowed under your code. And hearing what the commissioner said last time, they have moved and put washer dryers inside of each of the units. There is a full two bath in the 3-bedroom units. So they listened to what you had said. People were uncomfortable with the rezoning and the general plan amendment. The development agreement does not require that. And so it's a way to get your commercial zoning. First floor, 8,000 square feet of commercial zoning is there. And you have the ability to have additional upscale housing, townhouses, lovely townhouses, in addition to augmenting the mixed use, which is commercial zone. So we would ask that you approve this project and recommend to the city council that they approve the development agreement. We were, I was surprised by staff's recommendation because we had been working closely with Rob Mullane. He was asking for the plans for 4th Street just as late as about 30 days ago, and Dave had those prepared. We had no indication that that the development agreement was not an appropriate way to deal with this project because it didn't require the amendments and the rezoning. And so we would urge that you look at what's been changed in the project, recognize the alcohol, the washing machines, the upzoning of the square footage for the commercial, and the reduction of the residential units, and that you in fact make a recommendation to the city council that they adopt the development agreement, which will control, and Part E of the development agreement specifically says that it's subject to parking regulations, signage regulations. For anything that happens in the CH zoning is going to apply to this property. It's highly regulated. So we request that you make a recommendation of approval to the planning commission, to the city council, and allow the applicant to move forward. He's been working on this project for many, many years. He did hear what you said last September and has changed the project to accommodate your concerns. So thank you for your time, and we ask that you make a recommendation for approval.
And I just like to reiterate that we took you were concerned about the 3-bedroom units because they only had 1 bathroom. That 1 bathroom had to do with the accessible units. But now we've redesigned the 3 bedrooms to be 2 full baths, not 1.5 like the report says. So it's 2 full bathrooms, and we have abolished the laundromat in the commercial zone. And you felt like that the tenants were being taken advantage of, that they were being forced to use the laundromat that was going to be downstairs, which was true. So now we have abandoned the laundromat, and now we have laundry units in each of the units. And then the alcohol sales, of course, as Christine mentioned, that's a use permit. And we were looking at having a convenience store there, but at that time it was just serving the tenants. So we thought, well, why not, if they're home and they want to have a beer or wine, have an alcohol. But that's off the table. So that would take a separate use permit through the city to approve such a thing. So here's the things that the letter from Rob had said. Here's our choices after your denial was withdraw the project and the various planning applications from consideration. We decided not to do that. Withdraw the general plan amendment application, the zoning ordinance, and the conditional use permit, and submit a revised project with all commercial. We decided not to do that. We decided to do the development agreement. And then it says amend the project to address some or most of the planning commission concerns regarding the consideration to the city council. So we have done most. The only thing that we haven't done is completely abolish the housing. That is a financial need to build this kind of project. We need the multi-family part to do that. We removed from 32 to 24, which was a huge difference, and we're hoping to make that up with the additional commercial. But it's a difficult project to fund without any residential. So, and the other option is to inform the staff that you would like to have the project as currently proposed to be considered by the city council. And we decided not to do that. We wanted to come back to you and say, we think we've resolved your concerns. And with that, we'd like to, if you have any questions of the civil engineer or the traffic engineer, I'm not sure they're on. I think the civil engineer is this. Dio, are you on? Did you have some questions about the development of 4th Street? Usually that's dealt with by city staff, the engineering staff. And the engineering staff from the last time had proposed the approval of the project. They didn't have any concerns about what we were doing. But at the level we're at, you don't have full completed construction documents for development. And so that comes at the next level. Once we get to you, then the building permit covers all of the details of how we're dealing with 4th Street and all the off-strip improvements. Any questions of the civil or the traffic?
Well, that was a lot of information. Does anybody have any, are you done with your presentation? So
We would appreciate you passing this on to the city council, approved, so we can get on with this project that's now about 4 years old for me.
okay, thank you, Mr. Elliott, and thank you, Ms. Kemp. Good to see you again.
Yes, hi, Stephanie.
So do we have any initial comments or questions for anybody online? It looks like Dio is online. I'm sorry for if that's your first name.
That's his first name.
Okay, I'm sorry for the reference there.
That's if you had questions about the 4th Street development, which was one of the questions you had a concern at the last meeting.
Correct. And if my recollection is, I was wondering who's responsible for improving 4th Street. And I think the response was, well, it looks done in the rendering. So, but that didn't tell me who was doing it, because I know the city is currently undergoing street repavements and resurfacing, and we're on a schedule of different streets, and I don't know where 4th Street is on that schedule.
Well, perhaps Paul can address that, but you kind of addressed that with the hotel. When you talked about the hotel, there are traffic fees that are developed, and then the city has priorities for where that money is being spent. So that's something that we would still, need to consider.
Does anybody have any questions for the engineer?
No, I have one comment that you can interpret it as a question if you like.
Sure.
But when you were here previously, you mentioned that store that was proposed to be there, that it would only cater to residents.
That's correct. That's how that was.
How would you know if someone actually lived there?
Well, that is off the table. That was a right and proper concern. We didn't really want to do that, but when after designing it several different ways, Rob came up and said, this for how we're going to develop this property, it can't be open to the public. It has to be, everything connected to the project had to be related to the tenants. So we got around that with some creative things that the staff came up with about the general plan, but they were more complicated than what Christine's come up with the development agreement. We feel the development agreement is the right and proper method for dealing with this project.
I can answer that question also. The CH zoning has a list of retail service uses. And so all of those will be your commercial uses that are allowed. Banks, all kinds of things, drive-in, drive-throughs, equipment sales. I mean, it's a long list of uses that are permitted and are listed with a conditional use permit. So it is the highway commercial zoning. There's nothing changing in that highway commercial zoning. And so 8,000 square feet of that will be highway commercial zoning. And then the mixed use is adding residential overlay on that commercial zoning. So the commercial zoning is open to the public. If they want to put a drive-in restaurant there, or they want to put something else there, that's whatever's allowed in the highway commercial can go there. If that clarifies your question.
And we don't have any tenants yet. This is kind of new for us. So any tenants there are going to fit what's allowed, or it'll be a use permit. Like a little restaurant there that wanted to serve beer and wine. That would be a use permit process, and you would decide whether that was appropriate or not.
Right.
Okay. So I understand that this is a mixed use overlay commercial project, but according to the code, only 6 residential units would be allowed, and you're offering 24, which I believe was in the staff report, which is 4 times that.
I could answer that question.
Thanks.
It's because 6 would be allowed. We wouldn't need to have the development permit. So because that would be allowed under the mixed use zoning without any without the development agreement. So It says that development, additional units may be granted in accordance with state density bonus provisions or by means of a development adopted pursuant to section 17(1)(6)(1)(6)(0), which is your development agreement. So it is allowed specifically in section D of the overlay code section. So it is in conformance with your
Units
code.
are allowed in that
Yes.
section B.
Section D, 17.42.030, section D. You have to meet your parking regulations, and the development agreement allows you to have additional units in accordance with state density or by means of a development agreement.
And the development agreement is discretionary. It's negotiated discretionary terms.
The development agreement is discretionary.
One other issue, if I might, that's in the report. That is that the report says, the staff report says that all of the street along 4th Street would have to be redlined and not used for the fire because of the fire department. And so that was different than how I understood what the question was from the fire department. They wanted to make sure that they could get access on either driveway. So when I got that clarified by the fire department, they said that was the intent. The intent was to only red mark the curbs at the entrances, not 4th Street. So now we've got off-street parking, for the commercial.
I'd like to know at full capacity with 24 units, 8 that are 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 6. I'm not quite sure of the breakdown of bedrooms. What is your full capacity with it fully rented? How many people are going to be living in a essentially 1 acre site?
I understand what your concern is. You have a lot of people that have 8 people living in a 2-bedroom house. Well, we're going to have an on-site person that is managing all of this, and that's not going to be allowed. So 1 family per unit. If there's a family of 5 kids, they might fit nicely in the 3-bedroom. But if there's a couple or a senior couple or a young family that's trying to get a teaching job, 1 family per unit.
And did you replace the accessible units with these teacher units?
Did I say that again?
Did when you came previously, you had accessible units?
Correct. We still have those accessible units. Yeah, we're required to have a percentage of accessible units. And that's the reason why the lower floor is what it is, because the lower floor, if we had to do 2nd floor stuff, it'd have to put elevators and stuff in. So the lower floor ones are the accessible units that are on the ground floor on either side of the commercial.
Any other questions, guys?
Well, I know that my issue or concern last time was the parking and the store being there, and how would the managing on-site manager or security officer would manage that. But now that the store is not there, I can see that the residents would have more parking spaces. Oh, it is?
There's retail. So now, before all the parking was only for residents, now we have to work both. So there's 2.25 spaces for every house. And there is 1 space for every 1,000 square feet of that's your code. So we meet that requirement.
So, okay, so that's the problem though, because you'll have how would you manage the parking?
We would be glad to mark them so that each unit had their designated spaces.
Well, I understand that, but how do you control that? I mean, you can't.
We have a manager on there that lives there full time. It would have to be managed, because that's important, that when you have a home, that you have a parking, you have
I understand
2 spaces to park.
I understand that, but when you have a commercial, it's hard to manage, parking in the middle of a whole property of apartments. So
It's to our advantage to manage it properly. So we would be managing that. Somebody, we would tag cars that were not supposed to be, that were parked using retail that were in a residential space.
And I think David,
That would be obvious.
maybe the layout would explain that, because the commercial fronts on 4th Street, and then a lot of the parking is internal for the apartment, the townhouse buildings. I don't know if that helps address the question, but it's not all one big parking lot. It's segregated more with the residential, and then having street parking and additional parking.
It doesn't show that, but that's a proper concern, and we would have to manage that. And we would mark all the places for the units that would be theirs and only theirs.
So it doesn't seem so likely that the commercial people would go into the complex and then have to walk back around to get to the store.
Right.
So you're not gonna have a store that serves alcohol. What kind of retail spaces are you gonna have there?
I can't tell you that. We don't have anybody in mind right now. So we're going to advertise this based on what's allowed in your code.
So
for this.
Right, it's under the commercial, the CH zoning, and you could have, not that this would be appropriate for that site, but these are the types of things that are in your CH zoning. Service station, automobile rental. I don't want to get lost in these because there is a whole bunch of different ones that you can have: food and beverage, manufacturing, but these all require use permits. Furniture stores. Then you get down to education. You could have a meeting hall. You can have research and development services. You can have lodges. You can have indoor amusement. You can have commercial recreation. You can have libraries and museums. You can have outdoor commercial recreation. And there's just a whole host. You can have schools. You can have theaters. You can have caretaker housing.
Big list.
Get down to the more the retail service, you're more likely to have just cafes and specialty shops, bed and breakfast inn. There's a whole host of lists that are on your CH zoning. It's about 5 pages worth of what could be there, but most of it's covered with a conditional use permit. So you'll get an opportunity to see if you think it's an appropriate use for the site that someone would want to put there. But there are lots of grocery store, hotel, medical offices, all kinds of things that can be there. But if you think that something that's all allowed in the commercial highway zoning district.
Okay, but I guess my other question is that's supposed to be residential area housing. Am I correct? I wasn't here last year when that meeting. I was away.
Okay.
Okay. So, how much are you designating for commercial?
8,000, a little over 8,000 square feet.
8,000 square feet.
We had none the last time because it wasn't allowed. It was only used for the residents. And that was a reasonable concern.
So the
highway commercial should have commercial.
Yeah, the base zoning is highway commercial. And then we have an overlay of mixed use, which means that you can add residential to the commercial zoning. And so the development agreement is giving us the density, but the underlying zoning has to be consistent with the highway commercial zoning district, the uses that are allowed on the commercial space.
Yeah, I think I'm having a senior moment here. You're starting to happen more often.
Me too.
Join the club.
But is it going to be on-street parking on 4th Street if this thing goes through, or is that going to be no?
No, you can have on-street parking. Their concern in the staff report was that the fire department wanted all that designated no parking. And the conversations I had with the staff, with the fire staff, was that they were only concerned about the entrances, which is what I understood the question.
Could you have some clarification on that? Because I think I read in the report that Chief Langford wanted 4th Street closed so that the fire truck could pass through.
That's my understanding. As a result of interdepartmental review, absolutely. That's why it's in the staff report. Conversations offline is.
Well, I talked with Jim Diaz. Jim Diaz said he's the one that wrote that, and he confirmed that my interpretation was correct, that they were only concerned about getting fire trucks in the property, not clearing off all of 4th Street.
What if the front of it is on fire on 4th Street?
Well, you still have access to fire hydrants. We're adding new fire hydrants on the site, so you can, they have like 500-foot hoses, which wouldn't be necessary. So they can reach every part of the building.
Well, I tend to like with the black and white versus side conversations that can't be confirmed tonight here, unless somebody can call in and confirm that.
So would this encompass widening 4th Street? Because right now it's really narrow.
Yeah, it's completely building it out.
Okay.
You can park on both sides.
Right now you can.
No, there's nothing there. It's a half a road. So we're building it all the way out. The civil engineer has designed it in conformance with the engineering department for the city to deal with all the storm drain analysis and all of that stuff. There were some concerns at the last meeting, and the engineer was available if you needed more information about that. In my thinking, you'd want to designate that to the engineering staff.
So see, Mike, I also have a concern with the traffic study in that it was conducted in 2015, 8 years ago.
Okay, Keith Higgins is on the line, and he updated that for this process. Keith, are you involved? Are you still on? I see him. I see his name there.
Well, on our cover sheet, it says the March 21, 22 study updates
And the staff requested an update on that, which he did recently just for this design. So he modified that report to be consistent with this project.
Well, I go back to parking. I understand that you will have an on-site manager, but it's impossible. I think you can try and control the parking, but I do this for a living. I know how hard it is to manage a property. And so having a commercial place in the middle or there, the amount of traffic that's going to bring in to that area is my concern.
Dave, can you show perhaps the way the layout is again of where the commercial is in relation to the townhouse buildings? Because it seems that they're somewhat segregated. Is there a layout that shows that?
The site plan that shows that, it's in the report. I don't know if you can dig it up. The site plan shows the commercial is at the lower level, right in the middle, and then it's flanked by a couple of accessible units, which are on the ground floor, and then the rest of it is above that too.
But
the other 20 units.
Was it in that little flyby?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I don't know if you can show that.
They're asking for the flyby in front of 4th Street.
Because the parking for the units is also behind them, isn't it, Paul? It's not just there's internal parking.
Yeah, all the parking is at the rear. And that at one time we had it all off of 4th Street, but we felt that was really invading the privacy of the tenants in the back. And so we moved the whole thing to the front.
Are these the commercial units in the front?
Commercial units are that tan area between the residences.
But then the rest of that parking is behind it, right?
All the parking is behind it.
Right. So the commercial people are likely to be on 4th And the
Yeah, there's
residential
walkways to the
units,
doors. There's walkways to each of the doors for the commercial.
right, so the residential units are back here.
And if that's the case, you got more parking for the tenants.
I have one question. Oh, my question is, for example, you're renting one family to rate. And next week, another family coming to the same home, to the same apartment. What can I do?
I didn't follow your question. I mean, when a family comes to visit,
No, when your family rent
Stop the
the
video.
apartment.
family rents the apartment.
Wait, and then the next time, the next day, coming another family to live with this family. What can I do?
That's not allowed. That's going to be monitored by the site manager.
You really?
That's what we believe.
I don't think so.
Well, we think so because that's going to be where those units are going to be torn apart if we get 3 families or 2 families in a unit. It's not going to work. We're going to have to make sure that doesn't happen.
I mean, the lease would specify that.
The lease will specify that. They could be kicked out of the space for doing that because they're in violation of their lease.
Okay, so I've got a question here. I've got, one of my neighbors was renting his house for a long time. And those people just totally destroyed his house, but now he's in the process of repairing it. It's gonna cost him thousands of dollars. And he told me that he should have gotten some sort of agreement with the tenants where he could go in and inspect the house every so often.
We'll have that.
And you do it.
We are going to have those kind of agreements. So the lease agreement with the tenant is going to be so specific about parking, so specific about more families, specific about every use of the site. What days the trash is taken out and where, all that stuff is going to be in there.
I'm by no means trying to be argumentative with you. But saying it and doing it are 2 completely different things. I mean, I've seen this time and time again where you'll have one family go into a house or an apartment. And then like Commissioner Basket says, you know, maybe within a few weeks, you have another family and then another family.
Right.
And they're doing that simply, maybe they just can't afford the rent.
But like your friend, we can't afford the damage.
Well,
So it's one family per unit.
I don't think anybody can put up with the damage, but, I just wanted to clarify whether you were actually gonna have some sort of agreement for you to actually go in and inspect the house periodically.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the reasons that the owner wanted to have the laundromat downstairs because he was concerned about leaking washers and dryers going down through the area. But we're going to properly design it so that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, but did you not say that the laundromat was going away?
No, the laundromat is gone.
Yes.
The laundry is, but he was concerned about the laundromats in each unit because of damage. But we're past that. It's right and proper what you suggested. That was taking advantage of the tenants, and we don't want to do that if they get their washers and dryers. So they're a complete family. Mom doesn't have to run down with 4 kids and then down and do the laundromat, which my mother did.
So you'll be including the washer and dryer, or they'll just have the hookups?
No, the washer and dryer.
Washer and dryers. The washer and dryer is in the unit.
We want to put in good stuff and maintain it.
Okay. So if there's no further questions for Mr. Elliott or Ms. Kemp, are there public comments? Any hands raised? Public comments?
It was a hand raise. Well, the link. I don't see his hand raised anymore, but yeah, there we go.
Welcome.
Hello. Hi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, I'm Elia Cutule. And I just, I was listening to your concerns about the managing, how the parking and the contracts and all that. Just to let you know, we have another 2 apartments properties, and we have been managing it now. We have a manager at site, And we are very on top of that, that how many families live in there. And we are always on top of that, how they live. We have people that is checking and the parking spaces, and also they do regular check-ins on the properties and the apartments. So we have a very good relationship with the tenants, how they maintain and how they live, okay? Because we wanted to have a good environment in our properties. Just to answer the questions.
Thank you very much for your comment. Are there any other comments, any other hands that want to raise?
No, I think all the Ms. Kemp and Mr. Elliott have been, very thoroughly clear with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's no other public comments, I'm gonna close the public hearing and move on to Planning Commission discussion and decision. I would just like to say, if you don't mind, go first. I would have to do that. I want to give greater weight to staff's recommendation to deny this project. And my reasoning is there are 12 findings to support that recommendation with cited evidence for each finding. While I appreciate the revisions and listening to our last meeting, 6 residential units is what would be allowed under the highway commercial mixed use overlay, according to the staff report. And that would, I think that would pay attention to that. And the bottom line is, it is a very prime highway commercial situated lot. I mean, it was purchased as a highway commercial lot, not as a high density residential. So I mean, that is what it is. So again, I want to reiterate, there are 12 findings to support the recommendation, and I think that is the most findings I've ever seen in a report. And it was a lot for me personally.
No, I'm in complete agreement with what you just said. I mean, it's like what they're telling us, I mean, takes precedence over anything else.
So if we deny today, it will still go to council?
Yes, they're the final authority. We're just recommending denial or approval to you.
In this, my question is why you try to sell alcohol in apartments?
But that was when they first came, they were thinking of having a convenience store at the commercial. But even if they come back with that, it still would have to get approval for a emergency.
Greenfield has so many places to sell alcohol.
That's not an issue here.
I move that the planning commission adopt resolution 2023. What's the number on that?
19. It's 20 or 19?
Is it 19? Let's start again.
Mine is blank. Oh, on the resolution, yeah.
Okay, I'll start again. I move that the planning commission adopt resolution 2023-19, recommending that the city council deny a design review and development agreement for a proposed 3-story, 36,410 square foot building with 24 multi-family residential units, a 2,700 square foot community room, and a 8.580 square foot of commercial floor area on a 1.42 acre undeveloped site on the east side of 4th Street between Apple and Palm Avenues. APN 024-151-011.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries by
Thank you for your
zero.
consideration and let us come back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Okay, moving on to G, other business. Report from city staff on prior planning commission requests and inquiries. There's staff report.
Yeah, so I will need you for the last one. So commissioners, I am back. Assistant Planner Evelyn Mesa for the record. So I have some updates on some questions that various of you had during the last meeting. So I'll start with the dog waste station. So I did get a chance to speak to our public works director. And I think when she spoke to you, I'm going to give you the same answer. It's not something that's possible during this fiscal year. I think it's not that they don't want to do it, but she did reiterate that it is a whole process involving installation, maintenance, and even education efforts to ensure proper use. So it's not something that we can't, the cost also isn't known without a full analysis. And if it's not in the budget, the full analysis, it's not the appropriate time for that. So, I mean, I know it's not the best update to give, but it's just bottom line is that it's not possible during this fiscal year. The next item was the tour with 689 El Camino Real with Next Wave. I spoke to the owner and he's happy to facilitate some tours. So I think Paul mentioned it briefly, but he's happy to do it anytime in September during working hours. So if we could find a couple times, we can get those tours scheduled. It'd be exciting to see what they're working on as they get going on phase 2. So I'm not sure if it's something we should do now or I can reach out and try to schedule that.
I'm available Fridays.
Fridays, okay.
And we can do two commissioners at a time.
2 separate days, yeah.
So, on a Friday, that's when I can.
I'm available any day.
Okay, great. So we have some flexibility. We got Monday, Friday, any day.
What time Monday?
Anything? Well, after 4:30.
Mhm.
Oh, no, that wouldn't work for me. The public closed again.
Yeah, so it would be preferred to be during the working hours, so 9 to 5 would be the preference.
Okay, well, maybe we can do this offline too.
Okay, we'll do that. The next update is for the Welcome to Greenfield sign. So the project is currently underway, which is good news, and it's going to go before City Council this month. So look forward to some updates on that.
Oh.
Is that the ones on the freeway?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's gonna be done the same time the airplane museum will be done.
So the next item is the community service officers. There were some questions on their work schedule, and I can confirm that they work 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Next question was regarding the Traffic Safety Committee. So they're currently reviewing applications for committee members, and the meeting times and location will be established once the committee is finalized. Which brings me to the next question. There was a question about flashing stoplights at Cypress and El Camino Real at that intersection. And if there's any requests that would need to be submitted by completing a request form, which can be found on our website. And then when the committee convenes, they'll review those items. And then one more item for me is there was a question about park maintenance in regards to Barolo Circle Park. So any complaints or any service requests should once again fill out a form and that'll get sent to Public Works. And I believe this park is within an assessment area, so it's overseen by a contractor, but all the same, the request can go to Public Works. They'll facilitate that. And then the final update was on the Tom Rogers Museum. I think Paul is the more adequate person to give you an update on that. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. New planner did a great job tonight. The Tom Rogers Museum is going to the city council for an appropriation to fund the entire construction. A lot of improvements need to be done to the building that's been donated. The Parks and Rec committee representatives met with the city and also the Tom Rogers Museum committee folks. So we all met about 2 weeks ago for the first time to talk about all of the issues. Santa Cruz is going to drop the building on site in November. And so once the appropriation hopefully is approved by the council, there's going to be an accelerated kind of process. When they drop the building, we want to make sure that everything is taken care of so that it's done properly. And then after it's dropped, restroom needs to be built into it. Decking needs to be built into it. A few other amenities need to be built into it. So the appropriation is the ask of the city council is going to be for about $200,000, $212,000. So it's not insignificant, but for the first time, as I said, all of the three entities, the city, Tom Rogers Museum Committee representatives, and the Park and Recs Committee representatives all met here in City Hall to work out these preliminary details to make sure that the November date will be okay. We don't want to just drop the building and take off.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I have one question for Mrs. Mesa. So just to clarify, there is no price or no quotes, no nothing on the dog waste bag stations. You just are saying that it's not in the budget, even though we don't have any numbers, correct?
But yeah, to my knowledge, it's just not something that is going to get worked on this fiscal year. Yeah, I wish I had a better update for you, and I'm sure our public works staff does too.
Okay, thank you.
Any more comments?
Yeah, I just have one additional comment here. I'd like to thank you for delivering the agendas to our homes over the weekend. I really appreciate that. I'm sure we all do.
Yeah.
Exempted, thank you very much for the agenda. Thank you.
Yes.
When I see that, I go.
You finally caught me.
Well, I also wanted to thank you for that because it did make a difference. I was able to, when you see it in front of you, like, I read half of it Saturday morning with my cup of coffee and finished on Sunday, rather than what I usually do.
And Friday, I have football Friday night. So yeah, but I usually come by and pick them up, but that's nice.
And I also wanted to thank the city for the Brown Act workshop that was held last week. That was held last week. That was very informative. Just when you think what it's all about, new laws come about and things change. So I really learned a lot at that. And I went to Chris Lopez's open house. And while I was there, I was approached by somebody who was interested in meeting with you or Mr. Wood about economic development. Her name was Jennifer Johnson. She gave me her phone number. She lives here locally. And I believe she worked, her email address is at cmonterey.com. So she's, works in the tourism industry and was very interested in, seeing how she could help with, beautifying ECR and helping with events
Jennifer Johnson.
Yes, and I will email you her number and her email.
Okay,
But I did tell her I would.
thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else from
Yes.
staff or.
One more thing, Madam Chair. As I'm hoping you might be aware, we're working on, trying to manage your social media, trying to connect with the community as part of our community development social media page. And because of that, again, I would like to remind the Planning Commission, if whenever you guys get the chance, to have your pictures taken. That way we can put them on our social media, put a name to the face, have the community know what it is that you do and what it is that your role is, the importance of it. Again, that will be going on social media and also on our website. We would like to also put like a little bio under each one of you, again, just to put a name to the face and to have the community know each one of you just a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, send us an email. We'll schedule that. Thought you were gonna tell us, don't like what we post.
Please do. Please give it many likes.
All right. Well, if that's it, then meeting adjourned at 8:56. How much you been on?
Nice.
My Godfather pizza.
I'm doing that. Oh, it's really good. I like it.
Where's that at?
Come on.
Yes. Oh, that's right. My buddy shows up. Where am I thinking?